Welcome, everyone. We're really glad that you are here. Before we get into it, let me introduce our two speakers today. We have Alanna Young, who is our Director of Digital Advertising here at Coalmarch. And then we have Tess Howard, who is our Director of Search Experience. So both Tess and Alanna have built their careers at Coalmarch from the ground up years and years and years ago. They both started as entry-level analysts and now oversee two vital areas of our business today. So we have both the paid side as well as the organic side represented here today. And that's intentional because one of the big themes that we're going to walk away with today is that those two things are no longer as separate as they used to be. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to go over where cost per lead benchmarks stand right now for both pest and lawn, what's actually changing inside Google Ads with AI, how organic search looks completely different than it did a year ago, and what all of that means for your strategy as we're heading into that peak season. So Alanna, let's kick it off with the number that everybody really wants to know. What are leads actually costing right now?
So the good news is paid costs per leads are holding pretty steady year over year, which I think a lot of people aren't expecting right now. It definitely can have that feeling that things are going up year over year, which might differ based on your service area. But overall, across our entire portfolio, we're seeing that they are pretty steady compared to this time last year. So looking at Q1 across our portfolio, the average pest control cost per lead is slightly up year over year. It was about 106 last year, and it's 113 this year. That's still within a really normal range. Just a slight enough fluctuation there and early enough in the season that it could be things like weather that could be to blame, not necessarily an indicator of performance as a whole, but still it's a pretty small increase year over year, especially when you look at 2024 compared to 2025. On the flip side, though, lawn cost per lead is actually slightly down, which is amazing. It was $93 last year versus $84 this year. Another really slight fluctuation, but one that really sets us up well going into the busy season. And the bottom line here is that the cost to acquire a lead hasn't dramatically shifted heading into the peak season, which is good news. It's something to celebrate. It's also something unexpected, I think, as marketing costs as a whole seem to increase. So we're glad to see that going into the busy season.
Definitely. I think the unexpected is, for sure, not what I would have expected. So you mentioned that we're early in the season. So stable cost per leads in Q1 is good news. We're well into Q2 at this point, but what should they be bracing for as we get into spring and summer? What is our realistic expectation for what those CPLs are going to look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, stable cost per leads are awesome to see, but like I mentioned, not necessarily what I would have expected, to be honest. We're in a really great place to start off the year, but I do fear they're not indicative of what's actually sort of bubbling underneath the surface when it comes to digital ads. With us only having Q1 so far to base these off of, you should expect cost per leads will naturally increase as demand and competition picks up in the later half of spring and going into summer. How much they will increase compared to last year's busy season is to be determined. I think it's hard to know this early in the season, but we are off to a promising start without a big increase comparing Q1s. In Q2 of last year, we saw an average of around $100 CPL for pest and $88 for lawn. In some more competitive metro areas, though, I would expect that to be a good bit higher, especially for pest control. But still, I consider the start of this year to be a win because from 2024 to 2025, we saw a much bigger increase in CPLs comparing Q1 specifically. So I'm taking it as a pretty good sign that we haven't seen that significant of an increase from 2025 to 2026, but that doesn't necessarily mean let your guard down quite yet. It's still super early in the season.
So you mentioned an average of $100 cost per lead for pest last year. So if someone, let's say somebody's watching this, their cost per lead is way higher than that benchmark at this time. So maybe they're paying $180 for a pest lead right now. Where would you start to figure out why that might be a little bit more inflated than what we've been seeing on average?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different factors that could be at play here, but I kind of want to narrow it down into three sort of questions that I would ask either your marketing company, yourself, whoever is running your ads to determine what is causing a higher CPL than usual. First, I'd evaluate whether the conversion tracking that you have set up is trustworthy in the first place. If you're already a Coalmarch customer, your team is regularly reviewing these things. We'll ensure that all of the different methods of customers contacting you are accounted for in your lead count, and that your conversion tracking is reliable. If you're not a Coalmarch customer, it's important for you to make sure that all methods of getting leads, that could be phone calls, contact forms, web chats, e-booking, all of those are being tracked, and that there are parameters in place to weed out very obviously unqualified leads, and that nothing has broken along the process of running ads compared to last season. This can be really difficult to do on your own, so I want to acknowledge that up front. I'd recommend chatting with your agency to get a rundown of what your current setup looks like and really ensure that everything is in a good spot. It's also important to note that agencies may track things differently with different parameters in between different agencies. So, unfortunately, as a client, this can make it really hard to compare apples to apples when it comes to CPLs. So, a higher CPL than what we mentioned isn't necessarily a cause for concern. Your agency might be tracking things slightly different, and therefore it's really hard to compare exactly between the two. But if you are working with another agency, probe a bit more, see how your CPL compares to what they typically see for their clients to get a really realistic apples to apples comparison. So that's the first factor there. Once you've ruled out conversion tracking issues, the next thing to look at is the conversion rate. So that's the rate that people are contacting you after they click on your ad. So if people are clicking, they're not converting, the problem likely isn't the ads itself, it's more of the landing page website experience. And there could be a variety of ways to improve your landing pages. They might be loading slowly. The special offers that you have on there might not be enticing or competitive enough. There may be no clear call to action throughout the page. It might be hard to find where to contact you in the first place, or your content might be a little too clunky, hard to get through, hard to find answers, and it's hard for users to find exactly what they're looking for and knowing that they're in the right place for what they are searching for. So the simplest way to audit is to pull up a landing page of yours on your phone. Most traffic is coming from mobile, so that's why I suggest your phone. Pretend you don't know who your business is at all. Ask yourself, do I know immediately what this company does, what I'm supposed to do next as the customer, and why I should trust them? This is kind of like the easiest way to audit without technical knowledge, just coming from a customer perspective and really putting yourself in the shoes of the customer. So that's the second factor. If landing pages do check all of those boxes, the last factor that I'd use to diagnose a high CPL is cost per click, and figuring out what's driving that. So if your average cost per click is pretty high, you're either looking at a really competitive market or poor ad and landing page relevance, which can impact how high you rank and what you have to pay Google to rank well in a Google Ads auction. It is important to note that CPCs, cost per clicks, for pest control can get very high, especially for really competitive keywords like exterminator or pest services. So it's not uncommon to see $15 to $20 average CPCs, but the higher end of that is an indicator that you're up against some stiff competition. Overall, I'd say the easiest thing that you can do if you have concerns is to have a conversation with your marketing agency, get their honest thoughts on what factors are driving your CPL specifically, because it really can vary differently between services, service areas, the competitive environment around you. So there's so many factors that could impact your specific number that the best way to approach it is to just have a conversation with whoever is running your ads. But those are a few things you can do in the meantime to really help kind of pre-diagnose that issue.
Incredible. Thank you so much. I know that was asking a lot of you, but if I were to summarize, so number one, you said check your tracking. So is every lead source being tracked? Is your tracking actually working? Number two, your conversion rate. What are people doing once they've learned who you are and what you offer? And then number three, what do your cost per clicks look like? Is that correct?
Yes.
Beautiful. So I did want to make one good distinction that I want to make sure that we call out. So you might be paying more to acquire a lead, but I think it's important to consider what the value of that lead is. So I definitely agree with diving a little bit deeper with whoever manages your ads, because there's, so much more that goes into all of those things that you just mentioned and as you mentioned. So definitely worth sitting down and having, a few conversations with your agency or whoever might be running your ads. So now let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about what's actually changing under the hood in paid. So what's the latest news about Google Ads, especially from an AI perspective? We know we're constantly getting new things there. So what's going on with Google Ads and AI?
Yeah, so AI remains just kind of the hot topic of the year as it was last year. And AI in Google Ads is now sort of the norm. It's not necessarily something to strive for, it's just built into every aspect of what we do. But it does require really strong signals to thrive, and it's not able to run itself. You still have to have a human at the wheel that has the context and the experience to really drive real results. So AI campaign control in Google Ads is becoming more of the norm. There's features like AI Max for search campaigns that really helps you expand your keyword targeting, show up in more areas through the use of AI. And then we've got Performance Max campaigns that are a little more visually driven, but also very focused on AI and showing up in more areas than just your average search campaign. Both of those are becoming more commonplace in the average Google Ads strategy. The catch is that AI driven campaigns only perform well when they're fed good data. I think that's been the hardest thing for a lot of businesses going into this more AI driven atmosphere. Is needing really clean and accurate conversion slash lead tracking, relevant landing pages that answers customers' questions upfront, accurate business information across as many platforms as possible, and first party data that's things like current customer names, emails, and phone numbers fed into the system to give an idea of what to look for. So feeding the system this type of data allows it to optimize for real results rather than just the contacts that are coming through your website, and find the right audiences beyond just keyword targeting. Keyword targeting for now is very much still part of the Google Ads strategy, but as an industry, we're definitely moving towards a keywordless Google Ads in the near future. So now is the time to get ahead of that, start feeding the system the right data so that by the time we get to that point, you're already set up for success. Outside of just Google Ads, your Google business profile is now considered a paid ad input, not just an organic one. The lines are kind of being blurred a lot more between SEO and PPC, SEM, whatever you want to call it. So Google pulls reviews, hours, and services from your GBP to dynamically generate ad copy, as well as decide on which pages on your site to route ads to. So everything is complementing each other. It's a lot more of a holistic marketing strategy in 2026 than what we've seen in previous years.
So we know from an SEO or organic side, search experience side, the impact that an incomplete Google Ads or Google Business profile could have on your visibility and how you'll rank and all of those other things that it influences. But how, if a GBP is incomplete or maybe has the wrong information, how is that impacting my ads?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not going to be quite as detrimental as it will be on the organic side, but practically speaking, a weak GBP or a thin website hurts your paid performance beyond just your organic rankings. A question you can use to diagnose it is your paid account giving Google's AI accurate data on what a real lead looks like? Do you have conversion tracking set up and verified? Is your GBP information current and complete? And have you shared your customer lists with your Google Ads account? All of those things together really help feed it the right information. It's more of a you are the one controlling the narrative that you give to Google. It's going to find that information one way or another. So making sure that you have it accurate and that you're putting it in front of the system as much as possible means that you can have a little more control over how your brand presents through various different marketing avenues.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So one more thing I want to make sure that we cover before we hand things off to Tess, because this does connect directly to what she's going to talk about in just a moment. So you've been researching this for a while, but tell me about ChatGPT ads. Is this something that pest and lawn businesses need to be thinking about right now?
So this is, of course, a very exciting change coming into this year. Last year, OpenAI had mentioned they weren't looking into ads anytime soon. They definitely changed their tune a little bit in January. Keep in mind that these are still very, very new. They officially launched ads in February of this year. But early results are promising in some ways, disappointing in other ways, but it's still a little too early to judge. But just to give you a little context and background of what people are seeing so far, some perks so far show that low ad dismissal rates are coming through. So the rate that people are ignoring ads, hiding them, is low, which is a great indicator. And the relevance of ads is improving as time goes on. So ads are more likely to land with the user when shown as compared to other platforms. Some of the downsides are that performance metrics and reporting are pretty limited. There's currently no way to track conversions, which leaves a pretty major blind spot, especially for a more leads based business like pest control or lawn care. So there's kind of a balance going on, but like I said, it's still very new. There's a lot of time for this to develop as time goes on. You currently can't run ads there yet. I want to make sure that's as clear as possible. They do have sort of a beta list going of current advertisers within the platform that were invited individually to join for that beta test in the beginning. But I do want to make sure that we still cover this because the customer behavior shift is sort of already happening in the background, regardless of whether you can buy ads there yet or not. More and more of your potential customers are resolving their questions about pest control, lawn care, home services in general, using AI chats before they ever search Google, which is what Tess's section will sort of dig into a little bit more. So you'll get a little more information on that. But from what we know so far on the paid ad side, the targeting model is, excuse me, I'm losing my voice today, completely different from Google. Instead of keywords, ads are going to be matched based on what someone is actively discussing in their conversation. So a homeowner that's chatting about a mouse problem would be sort of a high intent moment. That's exactly the kind of contextual placement that could work really well for local service businesses. So it's meeting them at their point of need and also kind of integrating yourself into the conversation in a way that feels more natural, less salesy, less advertising, which we know tends to work better in this age of just constant ads from every angle. I will mention that access is currently limited to those early pilot advertisers that I mentioned. The rumor is that it's about a 200K budget commitment to get in the door in the first place. So this currently isn't a buy-in opportunity for most small businesses today, but it's getting better as time goes on. We're having more, I guess, promising signals from ChatGPT that this will be something that we can get into within the next couple of months, provided that conversion tracking reporting gets a little more implemented and a little more visible and transparent to the user or to the advertiser. Sorry. I think this will be a really great option for local service businesses, but we're not quite there yet. But the behavior shift is already happening. More customers are resolving questions in AI chat interfaces like ChatGPT, like Claude, Gemini, instead of clicking through to Google results. So the customer shifts are already there. We're just waiting for more of the infrastructure to be in place for us to really lean into that and invest money in it.
Awesome. And we do also have a blog about this on the Coalmarch website that you provided last month. So if you're interested in reading more, Alanna shared a lot of great info there. So you can find that on our website. It's not a, go out there tomorrow, get started on this recommendation. Obviously, we have a lot of limitations there. But if we were to give people a takeaway about it today, what's one thing that they could do, or what's, one recommendation you might have for somebody watching?
Yeah, I'd say that even though you can't buy ads right now is a great time to start prepping and setting a really strong foundation for how your brand shows in AI beforehand. We've kind of got the luxury of time on our side right now to really dig into that and make sure that you've got a great foundation for that. So, a quick test that you can do right now while you wait for ads to become available is to go into ChatGPT, Gemini, any of those AI chatbots, and ask who is the best pest control company in your city. See if you're showing up, see what it has to say about your business, ask questions, get curious, and see what it already knows about your business before you start running ads in the near future.
Awesome. So one final question for you, Alanna, and then we'll hand things over to Tess. Just give us a quick and dirty summary about what's going on in paid so far this year. So what should owners and operators be keeping top of mind?
So there's a couple things I want to make sure we take away from what we've discussed so far. First being going back to one of the first things that we discussed, cost per leads being really stable. Like I mentioned, it's a really positive indicator that the paid fundamentals are holding steady, businesses are running tight, well-structured campaigns, and that will put you in a really good position for the changes that are to come the rest of the year. Google seems to have adjusted its paid algorithm pretty well to keep costs from being astronomical. So we're off to a really great start for the busy season. The next takeaway is that the platforms where customers find you are multiplying faster than we can count them, and the AI systems that are powering them need good inputs to work in your favor. So, businesses that will win this busy season will be the ones that use all aspects of their marketing mix in harmony, really look at everything holistically. Success will hinge on your paid strategy, your website, how many reviews you have, the quality of those reviews, and your tracking. All of those things working together, not just how much money you're putting towards your ads. And then lastly, ChatGPT ads, AI search placements, and evolving formats in Google Ads are all pointing in the same direction. The line between paid and organic is starting to blur, and your visibility in AI generated results is becoming part of your paid strategy, whether you're paying for it to be or not. So, gone are the days of being able to really heavily lean into paid and neglect SEO or vice versa. They're more intertwined than ever before. So, this is the best time to start looking at things holistically, do an audit of your marketing mix from all angles, and see how you're showing up across all of the different methods that your customers would use to find you.
Awesome. Thank you, Alanna. So much good information there. If you're watching and you're thinking, like, where do I start? A good place is think about, do you actually know what your cost per lead is right now? Is it competitive for pest or lawn, depending on what you offer in your market? And then number two, is Google's AI getting good data from what you're putting out there? So clean conversion tracking, a complete Google business profile, your customer list. And if you're not sure, that is definitely worth spending some time on. So now we'll shift gears, but it's important to know that everything Alanna just covered, the AI-driven campaigns, GBP, the customer behavior shift towards ChatGPT, it's all going to connect directly to what Tess is about to talk through. So Tess, first question for you. Let's say a homeowner in Raleigh types best pest control near me into Google. So what are they actually going to see, and how is that different from what they would have seen maybe 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks, Katie. So I think as a consumer, I've even seen Google's search results page looks fundamentally different than it did even 12 months ago. AI overviews now appear at the top of a lot of local searches, and it has the opportunity to summarize all of the results before a user even sees any of those traditional results that they used to see. So those links to your website in the organic section. For pest control and lawn care, this just really means that homeowners searching for, like, how do I get rid of ants or best lawn care company near me, they may get this synthesized AI answer and never actually scroll down to those list of blue links. So this just means that the customer journey is compressed. So people are resolving their questions a lot faster, which means that the window to really capture that attention through organic rankings alone is just kind of narrowing. So this isn't some like future shift that may happen years in the future. It's something that is currently happening now. It's already the default experience for a really big portion of searches that happen present day.
So I know a major topic of conversation today is, what is the future of SEO? I know a lot of people are concerned, maybe worried, maybe excited. No offense, Tess. But if AI overviews are answering the question before somebody ever scrolls, So does that mean that ranking number one on Google matters less than it used to? And what is the new thing that people should be optimizing for, if so?
Yeah, I definitely hear that concern. I've heard from some customers of like SEO is dying off. What do I do now? But I'll touch on that later on. But SEO and generative search optimization still play a really heavy hand in your marketing mix. Like Alanna mentioned earlier, there's so many things on the organic side that play into how your ads perform. And I will say Google still dominates, but for the first time in decades, it's really like loosening its grip. Google still commands nearly like 80% of digital searches globally, but ChatGPT has now accounted for 17% of those queries, and poses the biggest threat to Google's dominance over the last 20 years. To kind of put that into perspective, so Bing was, one of the biggest competitors of Google. They've been trying for years to break into that dominance that Google has had. But despite their decades of effort and, billions of dollars that they've poured into this from Microsoft, they still hold less than 5% of global search markets as of early 2026. But ChatGPT has done more to break into that than in 2 years than Bing has in the last 15. So it's really not this small little footnote, this, shift towards generative search and AI searches. This definitely signals that people really are navigating to these different AI models to find information and do local searches. And it's not just ChatGPT. Approximately 30% of consumers now say that they start their informational searches directly in an AI chatbot. So it could be ChatGPT or Gemini, as opposed to going through that traditional search engine. The behavior shift is really most visible in the types of questions your customers are asking. So they may ask things like, what's the best pest control company near me, or how do I know if I have termites in my home? Exactly the kind of informational or conversational queries that AI handles really well.
For sure. So a lot has been changing. It can be overwhelming. And with all of that in mind, what would your recommendation be to someone that's just looking for a place to start?
Yeah, I think right now there's a really big strategic opportunity to start playing around with these different optimizations. Um, so search demand through these channels, again, still hasn't taken over Google yet. So it should be an advantage for any business out there who's willing to make these early moves. The cost of really trying to invest in your AI visibility right now and trying to play around in it, the cost is going to be significantly lower today as opposed to, a year or 5 years from now when everyone's trying to play in this space. So I would definitely recommend start playing around in these platforms while the stakes are low. So you want to start asking ChatGPT or Gemini, like Alanna mentioned earlier. See what comes up when you search best pest control company in the cities that you service. Understand how these tools are picking which companies that they recommend, and make sure that when you're searching for your brand name or information about your business in these different models, it really represents who you are and what you want to be telling to your potential customers. You want to see, what type of content on your site gets you cited the most frequently. Because if, and I will say when this trend continues, you really want to make sure that you already have that visibility and that you're not going back to the drawing board or essentially starting from scratch when leads are actively coming through these channels. So get that visibility early and take some risks now while, it's not that big of, while the leads aren't actively coming through these channels.
Great. I know we have been talking about this a lot at Coalmarch, but let's talk a little bit about the difference between traditional SEO and generative search optimization. So what is the difference between the two?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a great question, and it's something that we've, played around with internally and have a lot of ongoing conversations about so we can help educate our clients on this topic. But I would say traditional SEO is really about ranking. So you want to get your pages to appear high in this list of results. And it's really tied to specific keywords that you want to optimize content for. But generative search optimization, or GSO, is really about being chosen. So getting the AI to pull from your content, from your reviews, from anywhere that your information about your company or your brand is listed on the internet, when they generate these answers for consumers. So you can kind of think of it this way, where traditional SEO gets you on the list of potential options, GSO gets you recommended to consumers. The signals that drive GSO are different from traditional SEO ranking factors, because again, it's really less about keyword density, and the signals that you really want to focus in on or are authority and trust signals. So you want to have a consistent name, address, and phone number across the entire internet. You want strong Google business profile signals. You want to have fully filled out information. You want to have photos on your profile, strong reviews. You want quality backlinks to your website. So you want other sites to be citing you as a source, or informational, a source of information. You want content that really directly answers questions. So it should be really well structured. It should be clear. It should be helpful, so that AI and consumers can really easily extract the information that you're trying to give them or it. Reviews and reputation. So you really want to focus in on your brand reputation and your image as a whole across the internet. So I would go as far as to say you want to think outside of just your Google business profile too. That's definitely going to be your most important asset in this, but different AI models are going to pull from things like Yelp or BBB or Angie. You want to have really well built out profiles across all of these different citations, so that anywhere that these different AI models are pulling from has accurate and relevant information to your brand and your business. And then you really want entity recognition. So Google and other AI systems need to really understand who you are as a business, not just what keywords you rank for, which makes branding and just your overall messaging just that much more important as a business.
So 2 things that really stood out to me. Number one, differentiating or spreading out where your reviews are going to. So that's pretty different from what we've been telling our customers or clients for the last several years. You know, Google has been king traditionally, and it's played an impact on ranking, local service ads, so many different things. So while we knew reviews are important, definitely if you can get them everywhere, awesome, but like prioritize Google. So that's shifting, correct? So, you know, Google, you mentioned Google is still the most important for now, but it's not a bad idea to just spread them out, get them a little all over the place. And that is something that has shifted. So if you are a Coalmarch client watching this right now, yes, we have been telling you for a long time, Google, Google, Google. But now, guess what? You need to go a little bit everywhere else as well. If you have questions about that, you can talk to your account manager and we can give you some resources on how you can start generating those reviews. And then the other thing that you mentioned was, you said, and I love this, traditional SEO gets you on the list and GSO gets you recommended. That's really useful framing. So what does that actually mean you would have to do differently?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things that you kind of have to shift to really be the recommendation that generative search is serving up for pest control or lawn care companies in your area. A big one is auditing your Google business profiles, like it's a paid asset. Because it really is now. Again, it's becoming more blended between the organic and paid side of things. So taking a look at your hours, what services you have listed there, the photos that you have, the Q&A section that's on there, and the reviews that all feed into how AI systems represent your business. If your GBP is in a really good place, then I'd start outside of that. Like Katie mentioned, you know, Google is still king and your GBP is definitely your top citation that you want to focus on. But if you are looking at your competition in the area and you're like, I have thousands more reviews than these guys, I have a great star rating, and I'm in a good place with my Google business profile, I think that's where you can start to expand. So you can start looking at, you know, your Yelp profiles, making sure that those are set up, that they're accurate, and you're starting to ask for reviews to that specific platform. or looking at BBB, Angie, and so on, and making sure all your information is 100% accurate and set up. Then for on-site optimizations and kind of auditing through, I would say making sure that your content is written so that it answers real questions that people are actually searching for, not just content that targets specific keywords. So what we focus on at Coalmarch is FAQ sections and having those throughout your website on specific pages to directly ask and answer questions. That helps you get cited more frequently. Different service explainers. So like, what can I expect with my service offering, and having a really in-depth explanation there, or having locally relevant blog content. These are all really highly valuable GSO inputs that you can put on your website. Getting serious about reviews. So I kind of already mentioned this, but making sure that not just the quantity, but the recency and specificity of your reviews is there. So something like a review saying, they got rid of my German cockroach problem fast, is way more beneficial to AI than just great service with a 5-star review. You want to make sure your business information is consistent everywhere. So any different directories, your website, your social profiles, inconsistencies just create confusion for AI systems to understand your business. As smart as these AI systems are, they're still not, intelligent enough to think like a human would and realize, those key differences and put the pieces together. But I will say bots do understand the need for tracking numbers. So we're not looking for 100% accuracy, but we want to get as close as possible, clean up any duplicate profiles and any true misinformation. That's really the key. And then you don't want to just treat paid and organic as these truly separate strategies. As Alanna kind of covered, your GBP and your website quality now directly affect your paid performance too. It all just kind of feeds into this greater ecosystem.
That's super helpful. And I have more follow-up questions to that. So you mentioned the review specificity being better for AI than just great service. So we know generating reviews can be difficult for some as it is, but how would a business owner actually coach their customers to leave those better reviews without being weird about it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the key is to really just make it feel helpful and not scripted. So after a successful service, a technician can say something like, if you're happy with today's visit, we'd really appreciate a Google review. It helps other homeowners find us. The most useful reviews mention the specific pest that you had and whether we solved it. So I think that one sentence at the end is the key there that helps make it work. You're not telling them directly what to write. You're telling them what would be useful for you, which really feels like more of like a helpful tip as opposed to you prompting them out and making them leave a specific review for you. And then you can reinforce this during any type of like follow-up texts or emails that you had. Like if you're leaving a review, mention the pest, give an example like German cockroaches, bed bugs, or mosquitoes, and your location. This just helps your neighbors searching for the same problem find us. And you can also train your team to set this up kind of naturally at the end of their service. This is ideally when your customers are happiest with you. So reviews left within an hour or so of service are more likely to be, they're more likely to happen. And they just feel more genuine from the consumer who you've just solved this problem for them. So they're really willing to leave you that positive review with some context in there.
Definitely. So one more question for you, Tess, and going back to writing content that answers real questions. Can you give us an example, a concrete example of a page that would actually help with GSO if maybe for a pest control company? So what's an example you could give us?
Yeah. So I would say instead of kind of this generic all-encompassing page like pest control services, think about building a page that's a lot more specific to one specific pest and one specific city. So an example, instead of, the generic umbrella term of pest control services, you can kind of narrow that down into German cockroach treatment in a specific city. And one of your first paragraphs could be on like what to expect. So that page would really answer what are German cockroaches versus other roaches that they might see. What are, why are they harder to eliminate? What does the treatment process involve? How long until they're actually gone out of your house? What should the homeowner do before or after their service? And then are these products safe for kids and pets and so on and so forth? I think there's a million different questions you could answer on a page like this. But the reason this works really well for generative search is because AI answers are built from pages that directly match the questions that users are asking with content on your site. So when someone is asking, a different AI, how do pest control companies treat for German cockroaches, which are, those more longer tail queries that we're seeing people type into these more chat-based models like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, what's going to surface is a page with that exact information written very conversationally and with a real answer to it. That's what's going to get surfaced and cited and recommended to consumers. So you can kind of think of the formula as, one pest, one city, and then any real answers to the real questions. And that's really what is going to come up with a page that AI can utilize to recommend your business to consumers.
Thank you so much, Tess. So I'm going to close out this section and I want to ask our viewers a question. So is your business showing up in AI generated search results? And do you even know how to check? It's okay if not. So here's what I want everyone to do right now. Open your browser, search pest control or lawn care in whatever your city is. So for me, that would be pest control in Raleigh. On Google. So number one, is there an AI overview at the top and are you in it? Then I want you to open up ChatGPT and ask who the best pest control or lawn care company is in your area. So who comes up there? If you're not showing up in either place, there's probably a gap, and that's worth knowing before we get any further into the season. So to wrap things up, let me pull this all together because the big theme across everything Alanna and Tess just shared was that paid and organic are no longer two separate conversations. As Alanna mentioned, the line keeps getting blurrier and blurrier. Your GBP feeds both, your website feeds both, your reviews feed both, and the AI systems that are reshaping search are pulling signals from all of it at one time. So the businesses that are going to win this peak season aren't going to be the ones that are spending the most. They're going to be the ones whose whole ecosystem is working together holistically, and that's the big shift. So here's a few warning signs to call out. Number one, your paid and SEO are handled by different vendors who don't talk to each other. Nobody's looking at how they interact. Number two, you haven't updated your GBP in months, or maybe you're not even sure who owns that login or how to access it. Number three, your agency is still reporting on traffic as the primary measure of organic success, but they're not mentioning visibility in places like AI overviews or generative search. Number four, you cannot tell me what your CPL is right now, not approximately, specifically. And then number five, your conversion tracking hasn't been audited recently, so you're just trusting the numbers without knowing if they're accurate. And then finally, we'll leave you with just a few questions to ask your current marketing partner or agency. How does AI fit into my Google Ads strategy currently? Number two, is my conversion tracking verified and accurate? What's the last time it was audited? Number three, is my business appearing in AI overviews on Google for my main service area? And what are we doing to improve that? Number four, are you looking at my paid and organic strategy together, or are those being managed in isolation? So if you are a Coalmarch client, everything we covered today is built into how we're managing your account. You have an incredible team behind the scenes taking care of all of this for you. We're thinking about it holistically, paid, organic, AI search, all of it. Our teams are constantly talking to each other, working together, collaborating. So you are covered. If you are not a Coalmarch client, the best thing you can do right now is understand where you actually stand before we get any further into the season. We did build a local growth scorecard for exactly this reason. This is a no-cost audit, no strings attached. And we will look at both your paid and organic strategy and see where you might have some gaps and where you have some improvements, or even, where some of your wins are. So if you're interested, you can go to coalmarch.com/resources/local growth scorecard and fill it out. And all that we require is that you actually have to meet with us to get the results. We won't just send it over to you, but we're really fun to talk to, and the results will be yours to keep. Again, no strings attached. So thank you, Alanna and Tess, for all of your great information today. Super helpful. And thank you everyone else for watching.